Good day, listeners. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Kyle.
And what you are listening to is
The Doctor's Watcher, the podcast about the transmutation of metal into gold and every episode of Doctor Who.
Indeed. Clearly, we do not yet have that alchemical secret, because if we did, bet you we wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Yeah, this is the kind of podcast that has a pretty specific and defined endpoint, but we don't really know how long it's going to take us to get there.
Right. Actually, you know what? If we were able to transmute lead or other metals into gold, I bet we would still do the podcast, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
It's like once you're rich, you just do fun stuff, right? You do stuff you like.
We just kind of like pivot the podcast to a podcast about what you do after you transmute metal into gold.
Right. I mean, we're already pretty rich from the podcast, but you know, if we were like filthy rich, yeah, it'd be almost exactly the same, but better marketing probably.
Yeah, totally. And you know, now we kind of have an idea about how to avoid accidentally creating a mirror portal cabinet on the journey to transmuting metal into gold.
Right. I mean, typical rookie mistake, but yeah, you know, it's not like I can't say I've never done that. So, how have you been on your search for alchemical goldness?
I've been doing all right. I thought sometimes in this part of the podcast we'll talk about Star Trek, and sometimes we'll talk about video games, and I kind of thought maybe I would do both at the same time, because I've been playing a little bit of Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown.
Cool. How is that?
It's been pretty fun. The basic sort of idea or concept of the game is that you're just kind of playing the TV show of Star Trek Voyager, but you know, you get to like make your own choices and see what kind of different shit might happen and whatever.
That's cool.
So yeah, the actual gameplay is, you know, you sort of like have like a sector map that you're exploring and going to different planets of, and like collecting resources from, you know, usually in sort of an FTL-like style where, you know, it gives you like a brief text description of like, here's the shit that's happening at this planet. How are you going to like deal with it? And you have a few different options you can pick from. And then like, you know, usually there's at least some amount of random chance of whether you're going to succeed or not. And then there's also sort of a like resource management, obviously, because you're collecting resources from a lot of these locations. And then there's also like base building, because you have to like repair different rooms on the ship and like decide where you're going to build your biometrics lab and where you're going to build your crew quarters and all that shit, and like kind of managing your crew's morale. And then you also, you know, at some of the planets you go to, there will be like a story element that's basically just like an episode from the TV show, but, you know, in the sort of FTL like style, and you decide how you're going to react to it. And then sometimes you'll put together away teams where on the away mission, basically it's a series of challenges that you use different skills to overcome. And like, as you're picking your crew members for the away team, you can see like what skills are going to be needed on this mission and stuff. So that'll help you decide who to pick. Yeah, so it's pretty fun. I think I could stand a bit more potential deviation from the TV show. You know, you can make different choices, but a lot of the time it doesn't necessarily feel like it makes a huge difference outside of like just that one episode and how that episode resolves. But there are, you know, some sort of longer term things. For example, there's an episode early on in the TV show where B'Elanna Torres gets split into Klingon version and human version.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the TV show, like, they get rejoined. In the game, I managed to, like, extract some DNA from the Klingon version and, like, use that to turn the human version back into, like, regular version. But the Klingon version actually survived that process. So
cool.
I actually have 2 B'Elannas on my crew now. I have like regular B'Elanna and like full Klingon B'Elanna.
That's awesome.
And you know, I'm sure there are outcomes where you probably just keep the Klingon and the human version. I'm sure there are outcomes where you keep just regular B'Elanna and lose the Klingon version. Another brief example is that I kept Tuvix.
I was gonna ask, like, I was waiting for you to like finish your blurb and then ask, is there a Tuvix situation?
So yeah, I kept Tuvix, which of course means I don't have either Tuvok or Neelix.
Right. Huh. Nice.
And then there are certain things that come up later in the game. You might have a mission or whatever where one of the options to deal with this situation, uses a specific crew person, or like, your sick bay needs to be like level 2 or whatever in order to handle this, or you need to have like this certain piece of tech in order to pick that option. And I've definitely had cases where like one of the possible options was ruled out for me. It was like, that button was disabled because it was a Tuvok option.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Like, apparently Tuvix can't do the Tuvok options.
Yeah. I'm sure he gets his own options that were never seen before in the show, though, hopefully.
Well, that's the thing, is like I can put him on away teams, and like I have him on one of my possible slots for like ship to ship combat, but he doesn't really come up in like the episodes, basically, other than like he's a possible away team person who has his own skills and whatnot.
Oh, that's maybe a little disappointing, because now it seems like some story paths are closed off to you without opening cool new ones with Tuvix.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like that aspect is a bit disappointing. And like same thing with Klingon B'Elanna. Like I can use her in like away teams and stuff, but she hasn't really come up in like story stuff.
Right, like that is a rich story thing to build around. 2 B'Elannas, come on.
But yeah, on the whole, it's been a pretty fun game. I think I'm probably around season 5-ish of the TV show, so I haven't finished a complete run yet, but I've been enjoying it.
Cool. Yeah, I've been curious about that. It's kind of sounds like a Telltale game style
sort of thing. Yeah,
like a choose your own Star Trek adventure, basically.
Yeah.
Sounds
I think
fun.
that's a good way to put it.
Nice.
Yeah, so what have you been up to?
Well, I have been watching Star Trek and playing video games, but I wasn't going to talk about either of those things this time. I have kind of a new toy, which is interesting. I'll hold it up for you, Kyle. Looks like you can't really see the screen at all. Listeners, what I'm showing Kyle is something that looks like... Oh, the screen turned off.
Oh.
Basically like a small walkie-talkie. Doesn't really matter if you can read the screen. It's just like technical info. Basically, it's like this small green kind of box with like a little tiny, maybe 2-inch antenna coming out one of the sides. And there's no, speaker or microphone on this radio. because it does not do audio transmission. What it does do is it hooks up, well, basically, like starting from kind of more toward the beginning, it uses a frequency which is very low power. It's called LoRa. I forgot what the RA part stands for, but the LO part is for low power.
Right on.
So you don't have to be licensed to operate it like you would for like a ham radio or whatever. And what it does is it connects to this network of other devices like that. It's called a mesh-tastic network because they all kind of like mesh together. And then, like if I were to send a message out, it would like hop across like all these different mesh-tastic nodes. Like mine is a node. It would hop across a bunch of other nodes and other people would see it.
Right on.
So you can set up like channels. Like I got 2 of the radios just for testing because it'd be really fucking annoying to only test one and not have a reliable, place to receive,
Right, sure.
And I have like a little local network set up that's on like the same frequency and everything, but it's encrypted. So like no one even sees those messages on their device. Like even if they did, they would just see an encrypted message they couldn't read.
Right.
But their devices forward them until it hits my other device. So really it's just goes from one to the other. But like if I wasn't in the same place, it would hop across nodes until the other one received it and could de-encrypt.
Right. It's like I know how to decrypt that.
Yeah. So it would be like, oh yeah, that one's for me. And it wouldn't send it along, it would just get the message and decrypt it.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
They're pretty neat. Basically, all they require is like a mostly line of sight connection, just like any normal radio. Like you can connect it to like a computer or your phone or whatever. Like for the most part, I'm just using mine from my phone. So like I could Bluetooth connect to this guy, say if I'm out on a hike or something. I could turn off, my phone data completely, turn off Wi-Fi, turn off everything except for my Bluetooth connection to this, and I could still send messages to my other radio at home. And it has GPS and everything also, so you can actually send like a location message, like I am at these coordinates or whatever.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. It's like kind of its main like critical usage, I guess, would be in like a shit hits the fan type situation. Like, for example, a few years ago when that huge hurricane tore through South Carolina, people that had these, they could still talk to each other, even though cell networks were down. It's fun. It's kind of cool. I haven't like earlier this morning, I had to run an errand. So I took, one of the devices around with me, and I could see like when I interfaced with it again, there was a little log of like the positions I had been recorded at, so you do have to be aware of that.
Right. Sure.
In case like the cops are coming for you or whatever, that could be evidence. But like for the most part, it's like the Mesh-tastic network can't really be regulated very much. Like they could spy on it, the government or ICE, for example, could get a Mesh-tastic node and go on that network. But I could be, sending encrypted messages to my crack dealer all day long or whatever. I can't picture a crack dealer being into this nerd thing, but maybe they are. I don't know. But yeah, like no one could read it, but the receiver.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool. Like I left them running overnight last night, and I still have a lot of questions because like you can pull up a node map of all the stuff, all the nodes your node has received info about. And like I had nodes from as far away as like Hawaii, or I think there was even one from like the South Pacific. I didn't look exactly where that was, but like I had seen pings from nodes like down in like Mexico and like down near kind of the Panama area and stuff. So like what I want to know is like, is that purely like them just hopping via radio, one node to the next node to the next node? I don't think it's like, it's not necessarily live. Like some guy might pick up, say when I was driving this morning, like I may have picked up a few nodes that I don't pick up at home. But it grabbed their packets, and if they share their location, it like notes where their location is. And then like maybe when I got home and my two radios talked to each other, the first one was like, hey, here's all the stuff I found while we were out and about. You forward this along too. And like as part of the mesh, like just all the stuff gets forwarded, not necessarily synchronously, it can be async too. So like, is some of that going through the internet, or is it all going straight radio to radio, async? And like I was actually able to link clear to Hawaii, that's pretty cool. If so,
yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's just a kind of a fun little nerdy thing, but could potentially be incredibly handy for organizing on an encrypted channel, or emergency updates in an emergency situation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, even like you mentioned, if you were out hiking with it or something, if you're like solo hiking and you have some emergency or some accident, you could, even out of cell phone range or whatever, send out a message being like, hey, I got my fucking leg trapped in a crack in the rock. Like, come save me before I have to cut it off.
Right, exactly. Or one thing I would like to try it at is in a few months, we're going to EDC Las Vegas. And it's notoriously kind of sucks to use your phone there because the cell phone towers get pretty overloaded.
Sure.
Your Bluetooth may or may not work that well because everyone else has got their Bluetooth on also. So what I want to try is, because we've got a group, our friends from Colorado are going to meet us there too. So I want to like hook up one of these radios to their phone and one of the radios to my phone. And then, then we're not even using cell network. We're not using, if we use like a USB cable connection, we wouldn't even be using Bluetooth.
Yeah, totally.
So it's probably better on battery, easier to actually send messages out and receive, and maybe even easier to like say, hey, here's where I'm located, pull that GPS up on a map. Oh, they're over by, such and such stage or whatever. So yeah, I'm very curious to try it in that situation.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, so yep, that's what I've been doing, Meshtastic. And there's another similar network called MeshCore. I'm not really sure of the differences, but I think there are more people using Meshtastic, so it's just more of a mesh, I guess.
Right.
Oh yeah, but there's other cool applications too. Like if you're, say you're a farmer and, you want your whatever sprinklers out in the far lot, I don't know, to talk to the sprinklers here that are close, you could easily, get some of these cheap Meshtastic, like they're not that expensive. Get a few cheap units, make sure they can talk to each other, set up a little network that only they can talk on. And, you could even just have them spamming, like a check in every 30 seconds or every minute or whatever. And like, no one would care because like, you're just talking to yourself.
Right. Totally.
And, you could control them that way from the, your laptop in the barn or whatever, it's cool shit like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, that's mainly what I've kind of been messing around with. but I do have a joke for the listeners before we get into this episode that I have been very excited to hear about.
Right on, let's hear it.
Okay, so this guy's talking to his friend, and he's like, yeah, me and the wife just got back from this beautiful vacation. Friend's like, oh, cool, where did you go? The guy's like, oh, we went to this resort. It was absolutely gorgeous. We were right on the beach, and, 5-minute drive away were all these cool hikes. Oh, so lovely. And the friend's like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. What's this place called? The guy's like, oh, it had like a swimming pool and it had a bunch of good restaurants right there on the resort. Trying to think of what it was called. Flowery, like start saying some flowers. And the friend's like, rose? Guy's like, no, not rose. Friend's like, tulips? I don't know. No, not tulips. Friend goes, lilies? The guy's like, oh, yeah, that's it. Hey, Lily, what was that resort we went to called?
Nice. Well, cool. On that note, let's get to whatever the serial was called.
Yes, the evil resort of the Daleks.
This is the 7th episode of the serial and the 43rd episode of the season. And would you remind us what our cliffhanger was?
Yes, so our beloved characters and protagonists, the Doctor and Jamie and some of the other folks from Earth, had gotten transported to the Dalek homeworld, Skaro, and more specifically, they had arrived at the Dalek city, which is mostly underground. They'd been running around, having some capers, sneaking through the walls and such, but they all ended up getting captured. I almost forgot to I almost forgot to remind us that they had also created the 3 Daleks that have the human factor in them.
Right. Yeah.
Alpha, Beta, and Omega. And they were also in the Dalek city. So everyone ends up getting caught and dragged before the Dalek Emperor, who sounded pretty cool, and I took your advice and looked up what he looked like, and he looks pretty cool too. Very elaborate kind of, this Dalek is bigger than all the other Daleks kind of thing. And we found out that they weren't actually really looking for the human factor, like they said. What they were actually looking for was to take a Dalek psyche, subtract the human factor from it to get the purest Dalek factor, and thereby, use this kind of distilled Dalek factor to make Uber Daleks in order to have them. They were going to make the Doctor use his TARDIS to sprinkle them throughout history or whatever, and take over the entire universe that way.
Yeah, the actual specific plan was a little bit unclear. He said I don't actually know the gender of the Dalek Emperor, but the Dalek Emperor said that the Doctor was supposed to spread it to the entire history of Earth. But yeah, we don't really know what that means necessarily.
Right. Doesn't sound good though.
I also wanted to mention that we talked a decent amount in the previous episode about how the Dalek Emperor looks, but I don't think I really said very much about how it sounds, which is pretty badass. It's basically like a Dalek voice, but more. Like just kind of every aspect of it is just extra.
Interesting.
So, I think I probably used a clip of it in the previous episode, so listeners would have heard, but I've not edited that yet, so I don't think you've probably heard it yet. But yeah, the Dalek Emperor has a pretty badass voice.
That's cool. Pretty fun.
The Daleks order the Doctor to obey the Emperor, and he leaves the room, and we cut to a bunch of Daleks somewhere else who basically activate an unknown Dalek device, and then we cut away. We just, we see them very briefly as they activate this weird device, and then we cut over to a bunch of human prisoners in a cell, which are, of course, the Doctor, Jamie, Maxtable, Victoria, Kemmel, and Waterfield. Gang's all back together. Everyone's here. Yeah. And Jamie and Maxtable and the Doctor are all arguing about the secret of transmutation of metal into gold. They're arguing about whether this secret even exists. If it does, whether the Daleks are actually going to tell it to Maxtable like they've been promising to do. And if they do, whether Maxtable will even be able to make use of it, given that the Daleks blew his house up.
Yeah. Sorry, Maxtable. You're kind of screwed now, buddy.
And yeah, Doctor's basically like, dude, you get what you fucking expect with the Daleks. Obviously, they're not going to keep their promise.
Yep.
And eventually, a Dalek comes into the cell and basically tells them to stop arguing or they'll be exterminated. It's I don't care who started it. I'm ending it.
Dalek mom and dad, sounds like.
Now, kids, you'd better stop arguing or we'll turn this car around and exterminate you.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure we've heard that exact threat sometimes.
Yeah, some of those road trips got pretty rough. But yeah, the Doctor just kind of pulls out his recorder and starts playing some music instead. Victoria starts asking him what he's thinking about, and he tells her about how the Daleks want him to do something that he would rather die than do, and that there's no way that they can persuade him to do it.
You see, there isn't a persuasion that's strong enough. Not even offer of all the lives in this room.
I see.
5 lives against a whole planet. Well, it's not a choice, is it?
Nice.
So
you must have seen the needs are many of the many are greater than the needs of the few movie.
Yeah, totally. He's now willing to sacrifice himself and everybody else in this room in order to not spread the Dalek factor to the entire history of Earth.
Right. Which would probably be a pretty chilling thing to hear. Fuck. The Doctor is getting himself okay with letting us die.
Yeah, totally. He says that even if the Daleks do set them free, they still can't go back to Earth. He doesn't really say why not. So I don't know if it's just because he can't control the TARDIS or what. But he does mention the idea of maybe taking them with him to another universe or possibly even to his home planet.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that those were kind of equal possibilities, or that maybe even home planet is less possible than another universe.
Yeah. Strange.
Meanwhile, the Dalek Emperor is talking to a Dalek with a black top. I think in the previous episode, it seemed like there was one Dalek with a black top, but I think there are actually several we learn in this episode.
Oh.
So Dalek Emperor is talking to one of them and tells it to proceed with the experiment. So we cut to a different room where a black-topped Dalek tells some other Daleks to discontinue their work, and Omega asks, "Why?" Which really pisses off the Dalek with the black top.
Who spoke? Who questioned the Dalek command?
Nice.
Uh-huh.
Because the doc said they were going to be, rebels, basically.
Yeah, totally. Back in the cell, another Dalek shows up, a different Dalek, and it's talking about the secret of transmutated metal, which, of course, gets Maxtable all excited and shit, and a door opens, revealing this big machine that has like a big block of gray metal sitting on it, and there are a couple of screens with numbers on them next to this big block of metal. And the Dalek makes Maxtable read the numbers on the screen aloud, and apparently they represent the atomic weight and specific gravity of iron. And then the big block of gray metal changes color to being kind of like yellowish or golden maybe, and the numbers on the screen change, and now they say the atomic weight and specific gravity of gold. So Maxtable basically creams his pants. He's like so happy about having just witnessed iron change into gold. And the Dalek's like, "Yep, cool. This machine is yours now." And the Doctor's like, "Dude, don't approach it." But of course, Maxtable does approach it. And immediately as he walks through the doorway, this blue energy field lights up around him, and he kind of convulses within the blue energy field for a few seconds.
Uh-oh.
Until the Dalek tells him to turn and move to the control panel. And he's like, "I obey!" And he does it. So yeah, apparently this blue energy field has given him the Dalek factor, which of course is what they want the Doctor to go do to the entire history of Earth.
Right. So we have some Daleks plus human, and now we have at least one human plus Dalek.
Uh-huh.
Seems like those two things would arrive at a similar location. Anyway, continue.
So yeah, the black-topped Dalek back in the other room narks on Omega to the Dalek Emperor. It's telling the Dalek Emperor all about how Omega questioned an order. So of course the Emperor Dalek is like, "Fuck that. Go find it." We cut to Maxtable, who's now sneaking into the cell where the Doctor and everyone else are sleeping. And somehow he wakes the Doctor up into a hypnotic state. I think in the original episode, according to what I read, he does it by swinging a watch on a chain in front of the Doctor's eyes, as he wakes the Doctor up. And, obviously he's saying hypnosis words and sentences. But in animation, presumably to save money and make it a simpler animation, he doesn't swing a watch on a chain. He just purely uses his voice to wake the doctor into a hypnotic state.
Oh, dang. That's a fancy one.
Uh-huh. So he tells the doctor that he had the TARDIS placed outside of the city and he's going to take the doctor to it. So the doctor gets up out of bed and starts following him. Jamie has started waking up at this point, and Jamie shouts at the doctor to not go through the doorway, but the doctor does, and the blue energy field lights up and, like, gets the doctor in the doorway for a few moments.
Uh-oh.
But, you know, after he kind of, like, pauses and convulses in the energy field, he continues and, like, proceeds through the doorway. Jamie calls out to him, and he's like,
"Stay where you are! That is an order!"
And Maxtable is like,
"We will work together on the Dalek platform. Follow me. I obey."
and Maxtable and the doctor head off together.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, I don't know if this is like the Doxtable ship, the Dalek Doxtable ship.
Right. Doctor would only stoop that low after he'd been possessed by the Daleks.
Uh-huh. So Maxtable takes the doctor into the next room and he shows him, like, this is the machine that mass produces the Dalek factor, and this is the machine that, you know, takes these little glass capsules that we've seen that have, like, the thought patterns in them, and it transforms the thought patterns into steam, which you can then spray into Earth's atmosphere.
Cool.
Uh-huh. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty fun way of spreading the Dalek factor.
Yeah,
just like
definitely.
turn thought patterns into steam.
Right, and then like spritz it like perfume all over Earth.
Uh-huh.
Cool. Okay.
Like throughout
okay.
Earth's history.
Yeah, nice. A little spritz here and there.
The doctor's like,
"I must examine the machine."
and so Maxtable leaves him to it. And as soon as Maxtable has left, the doctor sneaks back to the cell's archway door that he passed through earlier, and he opens this control panel outside of it, and there's a glass cylinder in the control panel, which he pops out and replaces with one that he had in his pocket. And then he calls Jamie over to the door, like in his regular voice, and tells him to take everyone through the archway when the doctor says to do that. And Jamie's like, WTF? And the doctor tells him to trust him. And then the Blacktop Dalek shows up and also is like, WTF? And the doctor's just like,
"Take me to your emperor."
so Blacktop Dalek does.
Nice.
Are you struggling with the stresses of modern life? Here is an easy solution for all of your problems. First, relax. Then, open up your browser or your podcast listening device. Navigate to the Doctor's Watcher and begin leaving 5-star ratings. You will soon feel the stress begin to melt away. Once you begin sharing the podcast with friends and family, you will feel enveloped in a warm, calm, peaceful feeling. Relax.
In the cell, Victoria and Jamie and Waterfield are all questioning, like, whether or not they can trust the doctor, because they saw him go through the blue energy field. But, you know, then he acted normal a few minutes later at the doorway. And we cut over to the Emperor's room, where the Doctor and Maxtable are telling the Emperor that, like, yet another Dalek questioned an order. So they basically recommend that every Dalek should roll on through that archway and, like, just make sure every Dalek gets imprinted with the Dalek factor. And, you know, that should take care of these pesky human factor Daleks that are going around questioning orders and shit.
Nice.
So the Emperor Dalek is like,
Cool, do it.
and the Doctor's like, you got it. And so he heads off, and Emperor Dalek tells Maxtable to go deal with the human prisoners. We cut back to the cell where the human prisoners watch as a whole long line of Daleks are all just kind of like parading through the archway door. The blue energy field is going and, like, you know, getting all of them. And the Doctor is telling all the humans to follow the Daleks through. And he basically explains to them all that he swapped the factors. So they actually just gave, like, all of the Daleks the human factor.
Awesome.
Uh-huh. Jamie asks him why he wasn't affected when he went through it earlier, like when it was actually still the Dalek factor. And he says it's because he's not from Earth.
Ah, so that's a big reveal then.
Yeah, like
it had never been, like, confirmed, I think. Or, well, I guess earlier he did say his world.
yeah, I think he's talked about being from another place before, but they've still never really said that he's not human.
Okay, yeah.
Which, yeah, almost makes this even odder, because if he is human, then, like, why does whether he's from Earth or not matter? But anyway, apparently that's why he wasn't affected. So
Yeah, okay.
he leaves. Jamie leads everyone through the arch after the Daleks go through. Actually, not quite everyone, because apparently Waterfield decides to go off and help the Doctor instead.
Father, no!
I must find Maxtable. He's to blame for all this. Take care of her.
Of course, meaning his daughter, Victoria.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Over in the next room, there are a whole bunch of Daleks that are all just kind of like spinning in circles and chanting the phrase, "Dizzy, dizzy Daleks."
Nice.
Uh-huh.
That's very funny.
One of the blacktop Daleks shows up and tells them to, like, get back to work. And they're all just like,
Why? Yes, why?
and, you know, they keep questioning. Blacktop Dalek is, like, telling them to shut up and get back to work. And eventually the Blacktop Dalek film negativizes one of them. But then a bunch of them all film negativize the Blacktop Dalek.
Nice.
And the Doctor shows up, he tells them to follow him, and they do. But as they're going, then, like, another Blacktop Dalek shows up, tells them to return to work. They start asking why some more, and eventually it film negativizes another one of them. Just in case we forgot what happened in, like, the previous scene, we'll just kind of do it all again, only with the Doctor here this time. And the Doctor's like,
Defend yourselves, Daleks! The Black Daleks are attacking you!
and then there's, like, an announcement over the city loudspeaker or whatever. It's the Dalek Emperor ordering the Black Daleks to
Exterminate all opposition! Destroy rebels!
And the Doctor tells the Grey Top Daleks basically that they'd better go destroy the Emperor or the Emperor will destroy them.
Awesome.
So some more Black Tops show up. One of them goes to film negativize the Doctor, and Waterfield's like, I protect the Doctor. So the DM's like, all right, go ahead and roll for it. And he's like, I got a mixed success. So the DM's like, okay, you do successfully prevent this film negativization bolt from hitting the Doctor, but not by shoving him out of the way. You do it by jumping in front of him and taking the hit yourself. So how many hit points do you have? And Waterfield's like, well, I'm an NPC who's an old man, so honestly, probably like 1 or 2. And the DM's like, not anymore. And he dies.
Yeah. Well, that was very, very sacrificial of him.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he just like tells the Doctor to take care of Victoria and dies. Doctor's like, oh, you saved my life. And Waterfield's like,
yes, good life to save.
Okay, fair enough.
In the Emperor's room, a bunch of Daleks are fighting each other. It's, black tops versus gray tops. And the Emperor is shouting at them not to fight in here, but no one's listening to the Emperor. The Emperor starts shouting about how all of the Daleks will be annihilated and exterminated if they don't listen and obey. Then there's a big explosion.
Oh, snap.
We cut to some underground tunnels where Jamie and Kemmel and Victoria are escaping to all go off and form the Chemtorami ship. And they've gotten to the section of the level that's basically kind of a narrow ledge next to a big chasm. And Maxtable shows up. He's like farther down the ledge, or farther along the ledge, and he calls for Kemmel to come to him. And Kemmel starts approaching, and then a Dalek voice starts shouting the word kill, and Maxtable also starts shouting, kill, 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 as he grabs Kemmel and he grapples with him for like just a couple of moments and then basically throws Kemmel into the chasm.
Oh no. What? Where's your wrestling moves, Kemmel? What the hell, man?
Seriously. Like, we all know that the grappling rules are complicated and kind of annoying, but like, you got to do something.
Right, and like that's what that's what Kemmel had his specialty in, and he, maxed up dexterity and strength.
Uh-huh.
Like at the cost of like not being able to say much. Like, come on.
But yeah, I guess sometimes even a min-maxer rolls like 3 ones in a row, and then you're just like, well, shit, I guess you get thrown over the chasm.
Yeah, I guess so. Dang.
Maxtable starts coming toward Victoria and Jamie. He's still shouting, kill, kill, kill. But then the Dalek Emperor comes on the loudspeaker and orders all Daleks to return to control immediately. And Maxtable's like, well, guess that's me, and turns and leaves. And Victoria's just like,
Poor Kemmel.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I did not deserve that.
Yeah, seriously. Back in the Emperor's room, shit's exploding. There's fire. There's smoke. There are screaming Daleks that then explode. Like, everything's gone to shit. The city is coming apart, both figuratively and literally. And in the midst of all this, like, Maxtable arrives. He's just kind of ranting about how the Daleks will rule forever. And the Doctor's just like, time to GTFO. So he sneaks off as the Emperor's casing kind of explodes and collapses, and we just hear like various other explosions kind of continuously happening in the background.
Dang. Awesome.
The Doctor reunites with Jamie and Victoria out in some rocky area in the desert, and Jamie tells the Doctor that Kemal's dead. Doctor tells Victoria that her father's dead.
But he didn't die in vain. I think we've seen the end of the Daleks forever.
We definitely have this time.
Somehow, they're right near the TARDIS. They, this whole serial started with like the TARDIS is missing. Now they're just like, well, the Dalek city is exploding, but luckily the TARDIS is right over there.
Oh, good. That's convenient.
Jamie looks at Victoria and he's like,
We can't leave her alone, Doctor. We're not going to leave her. She's coming with us.
Nice.
and so Jamie and Victoria head to the TARDIS as the Doctor kind of like gazes off into the distance, saying,
End. The final end.
and then we cut to one last shot of like Dalek shit exploding and one final Dalek shouting the word until it can't anymore. And then the music plays and the words say Doctor Who Patrick Troughton.
Oh, cool. Dang, so we didn't even really get too much of a leading us into next serial cliff dangler. It's just like, yep. Daleks are all dead. Like they're all dying and exploding.
The end of Daleks forever.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that worked out so well in eliminating them for all time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But dang, okay, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, wow. So we kind of gained and lost one of my favorite, like recent characters, recent non-main characters.
Yeah,
So
Kemal was a lot of fun. Like,
yeah,
it sucks that they just killed him off like that.
right. Yeah, like chemical. Why do I keep saying that? Kemal is like, he had some cool moves. He had cool clothes. He sort of, whether or not he was actually in a ship with Jamie, they did sort of share a ship together with Victoria for a few minutes.
Totally.
Yeah. That's interesting. Definitely kind of fun. Well, cool. Yeah, the evil of the Daleks. The Daleks definitely had some pretty good moves, some pretty sneaky moves. I mean, in the end, it was still clearly rather easy for the Doctor to like outmaneuver them.
Yeah.
But like they did have some cool like concepts and interesting, tricks and twists and stuff.
Yeah, it seems like, they come up with these cool and complex plans, but then somehow in the end, the Doctor always defeats him pretty easily, and often because, like, they didn't think of something or whatever.
Right. Like they just have a certain blind spot that he immediately recognizes and hones in on.
Yeah, it's like, did they not have, some system like monitoring the status of that control panel and like making sure that the correct glass capsule with a factor was in it?
Right. Right. almost like that, that's the kind of thing you'd want to triple check.
Yeah, seriously.
Or like just be super secure about or whatever. Like they had that whole thing where, what was it? That actor like accidentally shot one of the other actors or whatever. And it was because they, their staff hadn't like triple checked the fake guns and all that. Like, same level of thing. Like, I bet, our intelligence agencies like the CIA or whatever, they triple check their shit before they, click go on a plan or whatever. Military, they triple check their shit if they can.
But yeah, the Dalek Emperor is just like, yeah, totally. We will run all of the Grey Top Daleks through the blue energy field archway that we have not been keeping careful monitoring of.
Mm-hmm.
We will take the plan that the one person who's our arch enemy through all time is recommending that we do.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess you can't be the perfect evil, race of aliens. They're close, but they're just not quite there yet. I guess they never will be since they've been eliminated permanently now.
Yeah, totally.
Well, yeah, pretty cool. Do you have other observations about this episode or the serial in general?
Yeah, actually had kind of a lot of thoughts about this serial.
Nice.
Thinking about like if I would recommend it or not to our listeners. I would say that the story could be tighter. 7 episodes is a lot, and there were definitely a lot of bits, especially in the earlier episodes, that kind of seemed like they were going to be important, and then like nothing really came of them.
Yeah.
But the Dalek stuff was pretty cool and interesting. It was fun to see and hear the Dalek Emperor. So overall, I would say it was a fun watch, but it's probably not one you'll want to do in a single viewing. Probably it's best to break it up into like 2 or 3 viewing sessions.
That's fair.
But then I just keep thinking about how Waterfield, who was originally from Cambridge in the 1860s, had this whole like established antiques business in like a fancy mansion in London in the 1960s. He's only in the 1960s because the Daleks sent him there to get the TARDIS and the Doctor. So like, just thinking about what happened from the Daleks' perspective, I guess they probably have like some detector that manages to detect that a couple of random dudes in the 1860s have constructed a mirror portal cabinet that uses static electricity. So then the Daleks decide to like force their way through this mirror portal cabinet into the 1860s, where they immediately promise one dude that they'll give him the secret of metal into gold. They kidnap another dude's daughter and then tell him that if he doesn't want his daughter to be harmed, he has to go 100 years into the future and capture this weird guy in his police box.
Right. Yeah, like what?
And then like,
run that by me again, guys. Like what?
How long was Waterfield in the 20th century that he had this whole like established antiques business at like a nice fancy mansion in London, like with an employee and everything? Like, I want to know the story of like him and Maxtable first encountering the Daleks, and then like him having to go into the future and like learning how society's changed and shit. Like, how does he get this antiques business? And then just I mentioned earlier, like things that seemed important to get dropped and whatever. Like, we had the whole thing about Kennedy, who ends up like just getting offed by the Daleks. Like, he served his purpose of the story. Now he's done. Then like the whole thing with like Toby, who's like kidnapping Jamie and shit. And then it's like, well, we're done with him, so let's kill him off too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny.
Right. I guess, like for all the good aspects of the story, there are a few ones that is just like, did they think this through at all? Are they just going to like keep killing people that they're done with, like minor characters that they don't want to pop back up? But okay, whatever.
I guess Kemmel, they're like, well, we don't really want to make him like a full companion. We can't really just like leave him here on Skaro, so I guess we'll kill him off.
Yeah, he's dead.
So also, to drop the kayfabe for just a moment, obviously whenever we talk about getting rid of the Daleks for good and like never encountering them again, like we know that there are always more Dalek episodes in the future, right?
Right.
But now the Doctor is saying it himself, like on screen.
Yeah, so like, did he check? You know, like, why is he so confident in this? I think even at the end of the episode, we didn't like necessarily see every Dalek laying there dead, or like their city exploding or their planet exploding or something to that effect.
It also occurred to me that we don't know like what time period they're in when they're on Skaro. Like,
oh yeah,
it's possible that they didn't travel through time and it's still like 19th century Earth, but we know Daleks exist on Earth in the 22nd century. So then I was thinking like maybe they went to like the far future on Skaro. Like maybe that's where this group of, or that's when this group of Daleks is from originally, maybe somehow. And like possibly this actually is like the complete end of the entire Dalek species. But of course the Doctor's a time traveler, so like he's still going to be spending much of his life in the time period before this happens.
Right.
So like, even if this is actually the end of the Daleks forever, that's still kind of meaningless to the Doctor.
Right. He can just kind of dust his hands off and say, yep, we did it. No more Daleks forever. And, you know, forever just means like the universe is about to end in like a year or two. Or
There's like a mission accomplished banner hanging in the TARDIS control room.
Yeah. Good thing we jumped to this time period, because now they're gone forever.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of the summary of my thoughts about this serial.
Cool.
I feel like there are enough topics there that we could go on talking about the same stuff for like another 20 minutes, but
yeah, for sure. I mean, and we, you know, kind of have talked about the serial itself for quite a bit of time, really. But yeah, I agree with you. Like maybe it's not like a number one serial. There was a lot of kind of filler type stuff, but it definitely was fun, I thought, and like had a lot of cool aspects to it.
And yeah, even the parts,
even for one, like it, sometimes the historical ones are like a little bit, I don't know, I like the super sci-fi-ish ones, and this one kind of like started historical but then went super sci-fi,
like became sci-fi
more so.
Yeah. And yeah, even the parts that ended up being basically filler, like when they were happening before we knew that they were filler, like they were still pretty fun.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it's only with like the perspective of having gone through the whole thing to be, you know, where you can kind of say like, oh, they didn't really need this and they didn't really need that. But yeah, overall, I liked it. It was pretty fun. Well, cool. So I guess that kind of leads me to my next sort of question about the show in general, at least during this era. Like, I know this is not only the end of a serial, but it's also the end of a season.
It is.
What does that mean? Like, how did they decide that? Like, they've had a bunch of serials. They don't seem like they follow a season of a year, like a season in our time. Where do they decide to cut it off, and like, what's the significance of that? Or is it nothing, and they just keep going on with a new serial?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not even sure, because I think every season so far has had a different number of episodes. Like, they're all, within maybe 5 or 6 episodes of each other, but there's been like a 39 episode season. This one was 43. I think we've had a 44. So, and yeah, like, it's not like, this was the 1967 season or whatever. Like, a given season of the show spans, from like summer or fall of one year into spring or summer of the next year. And yeah, I honestly have no idea how they decide, like, this is the end of a season, we're going to like take a short break before we start the next one. Because they don't seem to be like necessarily at a good place story-wise. Like, obviously you want to end the season at the end of a serial, but like, why not any other serial in the season? There was nothing like particularly notable about this one compared to any other.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's interesting, but okay, cool. I'm up for arbitrary splits, I guess.
But given that it is the end of the season, that means that we will have a special bonus episode in 1 week on our off week. It'll be our season 4 wrap up.
Right. We're getting crazy with the release times up in here. So if you hear this, listeners, please don't hesitate to use your time machine and go back to send us any questions or comments you may have far enough back in time that we could actually get those into the wrap-up episode, which we'll be playing next week, but recorded months in advance.
Indeed.
Well, cool. Yeah, definitely a fun one. I don't know. Yeah, Daleks, one of my favorite bad guys. One wonders what would happen if they encountered the Borg, since the Borg are pretty clearly like a very strong reference to the Daleks. I mean, obviously they're not the same, but they certainly were inspired by.
Yeah, for sure.
I still think the Borg would win, but that would be a pretty cool series to watch.
Definitely seem like better coordinated than the Daleks and like better able to carry out their plans.
Yeah, right. Like the Borg, they're kind of more, seems like they have a higher tech hive mind kind of situation going on. And I feel like they have better weaponry too. And like we know that they adjusted to the Starfleet energy weapons, which kind of seems like what the Daleks generally use as well.
Yeah, like you'll get, a small handful of Borg units or Borg drones, whatever they call them, will get film negativized, and then all the others will be fine.
Right. They'll just come back and not even flinch. It will just bounce off their shielding or whatever. Anyway, very interesting. We could probably have a whole podcast bonus episode about like writing our own Daleks versus Borg fanfic.
Yeah, totally.
we'd have to figure out like a really good twist at the end. Like maybe the Borg Queen makes it to the Dalek Emperor, and like at the last minute they hit it off and they decide not to be at war anymore and to actually like intermingle. And then we get like Borg Lex or something. I don't know.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. Well, listeners, if you pay for the $7.22 per month level of Patreon, you can help us work out our fanfic in that tier.
Indeed.
You'll also receive the nude pictures. That's like the top tier, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 722 is the top tier.
Right. It's, we wanted something aspirational for people that, can just throw away $7.22 a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we understand that like not every listener is able to do like 3 digits like that, but for the handful that are, like, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you really wanted to get in there, you could probably, take up a collection around your neighborhood. And, just as long as you don't like tell too many people the password of your Patreon account, and, you just wanted to like share it on your street or whatever, that's probably okay.
And yeah, of course, the entry level tier that gives you access to like the base level of the OnlyFans is just 17 cents a month. So, that's less than the price of all of your streaming subscriptions combined.
Right. And it's because we love you, listeners, to provide such incredible value.
Indeed.
All right, Kyle. Well, listeners, don't forget, especially when you're on our OnlyFans Patreon page, to like, subscribe, share links, 5 stars, 4 out of 4 Kleenexes if you're on OnlyFans. Make sure to tune in one more week for our season wrap-up episode and serial wrap-up episode.
Indeed. And if you are not interested in our most self-indulgent episodes, then tune in 2 weeks for the start of season 5.
Right, which will only be mostly self-indulgent instead of entirely self-indulgent. Cool. All right. Well, I am very excited to not only wrap up this serial and season, but also start next season and serial.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, the time's just going to fly by until we start doing that. So I will see you in about a week, Kyle, when we do our wrap up.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.